Hi, boys and girls. This is Rainbow Magic, and by popular request, Tiana the Toy Fairy, The Land of the Sweets by Daisy Meadows. Oh, and just to remind you, all of these Rainbow Magic books, Ruby, Amber, Saffron, Fern, Sky, Izzy, and Heather, I have on my channel, so just search for them. Here we go. Tiana the Toy Fairy, The Land of Sweets. Ooh, that sounds good. So here's the map. I know some of you know it very well, but I'm going to go through it. You can fast forward if you don't want to hear it. Jack Frost's Ice Castle, Tippington School, Rachel's house. She lives in a group of, family houses. This is Tippington Town, Paradise Island, Party Rock, the ocean. They must be going to take a vacation or something. Fairyland Sweet Factory, Land of Sweets, and the Fairyland Palace. Ooh, that all looks good. I want to go there on vacation. Jack Frost's spell. I can't stand those flying fools with all their goody two-shoe rules. They've made a land for friends to share without inviting me in there. Goblins, steal Tiana's key and bring her magic straight to me. I want that candy floss design. The land of sweets must all be mine. Mean guy. Here are chapters. There's 6 of them. And the first one is Disco Drama. Rachel Walker and her best friend Kirsty Kate were spinning around, holding each other's hands. Faster, Rachel cried, faster! This is the best school disco I've ever been to, Kirsty shouted over the music. I'm so glad you could come, Rachel shouted back. It's twice as much fun with you here. All the other children around them were spinning too, and the DJ lowered the music for a moment. Great spinning, he bellowed. Now I want to see you all jumping, twirling, jigging, and bopping. And he pushed up the volume again, and soon the disco floor was packed with dancers, all twisting, wiggling, and swaying happily. Then Kirsty saw one of Rachel's teachers whisper something into DJ's ear. He lowered the music. A little bird tells me that there's a bag of sweets for each person, he said. It's time to go and collect your sweets, one class at a time. We'll start with Bluebird class. Rachel's teacher went to stand behind a long table which was filled with white paper bags. Rachel and Kirsty carried on dancing, listening out for Rachel's class to be called. And then they noticed that the dance floor was emptying fast. Surely not everyone is in Bluebird class, asked Kirsty in surprise. There was already a huge crowd of people around the sweets table, pushing and shoving to try to get in front. Rachel and Kirsty stopped dancing and stared. Why are they pushing in? Rachel asked. There are enough sweets for everyone. Some of them were trying to take more than one bag, said Kirsty, and they watched some of the children snatch bags from others. A few of the smallest children started to cry, but the teachers weren't comforting them. They were too busy shoving sweets into their own pockets. What's happening? Asked Rachel. The dance floor was empty except for Rachel and Kirsty. Even the DJ had left his stand to get some sweets. Why is everyone being so mean? Asked Kirsty. I don't understand it, said Rachel. Look, now the disco lights are going wrong too. Most of the lights were still flashing red, green, blue, but one had a steady golden glow. Rachel, look, said Kirsty in sudden excitement. Rachel and Kirsty were good friends with the fairies, and they could always tell when there was magic in the air. They got closer and saw Tiana, the toy fairy, sitting inside the light. Hello, Rachel and Kirsty, she said, waving to them. I'm very glad to see you both. The girls glanced around to check if anyone was looking, but everyone was busy trying to get as many sweets as they could. Let's duck down behind the DJ's stand, said Rachel. Meet us there, Tiana. And the little fairy nodded, and the girls crouched down behind the stand, and Tiana fluttered around to join them. She perched on Kirsty's knee. Her wavy dark hair bounced around her shoulders. She was wearing a frilly white t-shirt and a pair of jeans with a starry cardigan and orange sneakers. I bet you can guess why I'm here, she burst out. Is Jack Frost causing trouble again? Rachel asked. Yes, big trouble, said Tiana. It's going to affect the human world as well as Fairyland, so I have to stop him. Will you come to Fairyland with me so that I can explain? Of course we will, said the girls, and Tiana flashed them her beaming smile and raised her wand. A fountain of magical fairy dust burst from the tip, and the girls instantly shrank to fairy size. They glimpsed a shower of tiny toys raining down around them. Then the toys turned into sweets of every size and color before becoming a blur of reds, greens, and yellows, whirling faster and faster. Fairy wings unfurled on their backs, and they felt Tiana's hands grasp theirs. Hold on tight, she called out. The swirl of colors slowed down and then shaped themselves into a little orchard of candy-laden trees. I know where we are, said Kirsty at once. This is the Fairyland Sweet Factory. The land of sweets. Several fairies came towards them through the orchard, and the girls recognized Honey, the sweet fairy, Lizzie, the sweet treats fairy, and all 7 of the sweet fairies. Rachel and Kirsty rushed forward to hug them all. We're so glad to see you again, said Coco, the cupcake fairy. We just wish it could have been for a happier reason. Last time we saw each other, you helped me get my magical marble back, said Tiana. And since then, sweets everywhere have tasted delicious again. Everything has been great until today. You see, Jack Frost has taken the key to the land of sweets. Fairies love to create surprises for each other, said Lottie, the lollipop fairy, and the land of sweets is our brand new treat for all the fairies. It's a floating candy floss cloud, Tiana went on. It's meant to drift on the breeze above Fairyland, controlled by a magical candy key that I wear around my neck on a red ribbon. It sounds magical, said Kirsty, but what happens there? It's a place for fairies to enjoy the most delicious treats that the Sweet Factory makes, said Esme, the ice cream fairy, as well as Tiana's latest toy inventions. The idea is that every day I will surprise one fairy by giving her the key to the land of sweets, said Tiana. For that day, the land of sweets is hers to share with as many of her friends as she can. They can play with my latest toys and share delicious treats there, while the land of sweets floats across the sky. No one knows where it will go, not even us. It's a sort of magical mystery tour of Fairyland. That sounds amazing, said Rachel. But if you don't know where the land of sweets will go, how can you bring it back each day? I will place a new enchantment on the key each day, said Tiana. The key will bring the land of spells to the fairy's home at sunset, and I will collect it ready for the next fairy. Just imagine, said Clara, the chocolate fairy, clasping her hands together. The candy floss cloud shapes itself into whatever you need, so there will always be enough seats around the sharing table. The sharing table? Kirsty repeated. It's at the center of the cloud, and it's always filled with toys and delicious treats, Madeline, the cookie fairy, explained. It's where friends can gather and enjoy their favorite sweets together. We were ready to give the first fairy an awesome surprise tomorrow, said Tiana, but somehow Jack Frost heard about the land of sweets, and this morning he sent his goblins to raid my toy workshop. And they stole the candy key, asked Rachel. Tiana nodded. They took it. To Jack Frost, she said. He used it to call the land of sweets to him. So, now Jack Frost is in control of the land of sweets, said Kirsty. It's not just that, said Tiana. The key does a lot more than control the land of sweets. Its magic also makes sure that friends everywhere share and enjoy sweets together. Is that why everyone was being so horrible at the disco? Rachel asked. Tiana nodded. Without the key, no one in Fairyland or the human world will want to share their sweets, she said. We're hoping that you can help us. It's a disaster. Of course we'll help, said Kirsty. With all of us working together, I know we can stop Jack Frost." "I will come with you," said Tiana. "And the other fairies will stay here using their magic to try to protect the human world while this is happening." "Yes," said Lizzie, the sweet treats fairy. "If people don't want to share their treats, friends and families will start to fall out." Rachel took Tiana's hand and squeezed it. "The three of us will defend Jack Frost last time," she said. "We will do it again." "We shall start by going to the ice castle," said Kirsty. The other fairies gathered around them. "We know you can do it," said Honey, smiling at them. "Goodbye and good luck." Floating Jack Frost. Tiana, Rachel, and Kirsty waved and then zoomed into the air and sped towards the freezing corner of Fairyland where Jack Frost lived. "It's green," Tiana explained when they saw the castle. It had turned the color of goblin skin. Statues of goblins topped the turrets, and there were goblins dancing along the battlements, swinging on the entrance doors and dangling out the windows by their ankles. "Look at the courtyard," said Kirsty. Crumpled cupcake cases littered the floor, and there was a pond of green slime in the center. Several goblins were ducking each other into slime amid squawks of laughter. "What are they doing?" Rachel asked in astonishment. "Causing chaos," said Tiana, folding her arms and shaking her head. "It's what they do best." "Well, there's no way they would be doing this if Jack Frost were here," said Kirsty. And they zoomed down and landed in front of the capering goblin. He stuck out his tongue and waggled his fingers at them, his thumbs in his ears. "Excuse me, where is Jack Frost?" Rachel said. "You don't belong here, pesky fairies," said the goblin. "Clear off. This is our castle now." "Jack Frost won't like that," said Tiana, raising her eyebrows. "He isn't coming back," said the goblin, puffing out his chest. "Now we run the castle. He's stuck on that ugly pink cloud with his wand, ha-ha. He was in such a rush to explore it, he couldn't be bothered to go and fetch his wand from the throne room. How he yelled when it started floating away, hee." "Well, if Jack Frost is stuck on the land of sweets without his wand, he can't control it," Tiana said. "It is designed to float away as soon as the candy key is brought onto it. And he won't be able to use the power of the key or to choose where to go." "He's never coming back," whooped another goblin, turning cartwheels around him. "Now we're having all the fun." "Oh my goodness, look over there," said Rachel. Another goblin was holding Jack Frost's wand and aiming it at the castle wall. A bolt of lightning hit the wall with a bang and made a hole. Looking around, the fairies saw other holes in the walls. "Hee hee hee," the goblin cackled. "If Jack Frost doesn't come back soon, he won't have a castle to come back to," said Tiana. "Can't you call the land of sweets back?" Rachel asked. Tiana shook her head as three goblins leapfrogged around them. "Usually, the magic of the key makes sure that the land of sweets comes back at sunset each day," she said. "But because Jack Frost stole it, I hadn't enchanted it to return to any particular place at the end of the day, and my magic isn't strong enough to make the key come back to me." "So the land of sweets will float wherever the wind takes it?" said Rachel. "Yes, and it will never land," Tiana added. "Jack Frost can't have understood how it worked, or he would never have stepped onto it without his wand," said Kirsty. "I've got an idea," said Rachel suddenly. "I know you can't bring the key to us, but is your magic strong enough to make it tell us where it is?" "A finding spell," said Tiana. "That could work." And she raised her wand and pointed it upwards, straight at the gloomy snow clouds blanketing the sky. "Land of sweets, you hold the key. Let it send a sign to me. Shine a light to guide our way so we can bring you home today." A fountain of golden fairy dust burst from the wand and hit the cloud above them. The cloud sparkled and turned golden. then changed into the shape of a key. It moved away from the ice castle, and the fairies followed it, flying over Goblin Grotto and away from the snow-tipped trees. The key only stopped when it was hovering over the glittering turquoise sea, and then it broke up into smaller clouds which drifted away. "The land of sweets has journeyed out over the ocean," said Tiana. "We must go to sea." S-E-A. The Candy Floss Cloud. Side by side, Rachel and Kirsty followed the toy fairy out over Party Rock, remembering the adventures they had shared there with Shannon the Ocean Fairy. Soon the shore was far behind them. They saw mermaids playing in the waves and swooped down. "Have you seen a pink candy floss cloud?" Kirsty called out. The mermaids waved to them but shook their heads. Further out to sea, the fairies spotted a pod of dolphins, but they hadn't seen the land of sweets either. The wind whistled past the fairies' ears as they flew, and tiny specks of salt sprayed their skin. Now and then, they saw fish and mermaids under the rippling water. At last, Tiana stopped and turned to face Rachel and Kirsty. "We must be going the wrong direction," she said. "There's no sign of the land of sweets." Just then, a merry voice called to them from below. A familiar head broke through the water. "It's Bubbles the seahorse," said Rachel, smiling. "It's wonderful to see you again." And they swooped down and fluttered around Bubbles as he bobbed in the water. They had met him when they were helping Rihanna, the seahorse fairy. Now he looked older and wiser, but he still had the same friendly expression. "I know what you're looking for," he called to them. "The Candy Floss Cloud is floating over Paradise Island, far out in the middle of the ocean. Keep going. You will find it." "Thank you, Bubbles," said Kirsty. "Goodbye." And the three fairies had a long journey. The wind and spray made it hard to flutter their delicate wings. They dropped lower and lower. "I can't fly much longer," said Rachel, panting. "You won't have to," said Tiana, reaching for her hand. "Look!" There was an island up ahead, and hovering above it was a fluffy candy floss cloud. With one last burst of energy, the three fairies fluttered upwards and dropped onto the soft candy floss. "I've never flown such a long way," said Kirsty. "I wish you were here for a happier reason," said Tiana. "But welcome to the land of sweets." And she crawled over to a little patch of bell-shaped blue flowers, and then she picked 3 of the flowers and shared them. "Use these like cups," she said. "They have honey nectar inside." Rachel and Kirsty sat up and sipped their cups. They tasted a sweet, refreshing drink. "It's like liquid gold," said Kirsty, licking her lips. "I feel better already," Rachel nodded. "It's delicious." "You can even eat the cups," Tiana added. "They're made of candy." "This place is amazing," said Kirsty. "All my tiredness has melted away. I love it here," said Tiana, rising into the air and twirling around. "If you feel ready, let's head towards the sharing table at the center." As Tiana led the way past trees and plants, and delicious smell drifted on the breeze, it was like being in a gigantic sweet shop. Rachel and Kirsty were delighted to see lollipops growing out of the ground like tall flowers. "The soil is made from crumpled chocolate cookies," said Tiana. "That was Madeline's idea." Pear drops hung from little plants, and low sugared shrubs were dotted with heart-shaped sweets wrapped in crackly colored paper. "Try one," said Tiana. "They're my favorites." And the sweets were delicious, and Tiana smiled as the girls enjoyed them. "The tree trunks are made of chocolate," she went on, as they fluttered between the trees, "and the branches are sticks of rock with fairyland written through them. Oh, look, these are the yummiest." Tiana flew up to the branches and picked a handful of jelly babies, rocked in pastel-colored rice paper cradles. The green sugared leaves rustled in the breeze, and bunches of rainbow-colored barley, sugar tweets dangled from the trees like cherries, as well as puffy marshmallows, lemon sherbets, orange creams, and peppermint fondants. And whenever the fairies brushed against the trees, they sent rice paper flying saucers swirling through the air like sycamore seeds. Rachel and Kirsty were so enchanted by the amazing things they saw that they almost forgot why they were there. They were quite surprised when they heard a rowdy, raucous noise coming from up ahead. "We're getting close to the center," Tiana whispered. "That sounds like goblins." Caged in. The three fairies fluttered forwards and saw a clearing among the sweet trees and plants. In the middle, goblins were sitting on candy floss chairs around the large table. Platters of cakes and sweets had been trampled on, and goblins' footprints crisscrossed the table. Some goblins were stuffing sweets into their mouths, and their faces smeared with chocolate icing, sugar, jam, and buttercream. Others were squabbling over toys. Drinks had spilled across the table and were dripping on the sugar grass beneath. "Oh, no," said Tiana. "This is supposed to be a place to share sweets and play games with friends. It's not meant for litter bugs and toy breakers." There was a bellow of rage and a thump of fists on the table. One enormous chair had its back to the fairies, and they saw a spiky head rise up from it. "Be quiet, you ridiculous rowdy rabble," yelled a familiar voice. "You're supposed to be working out how to turn this heap of fluff around and take me home." "It's Jack Frost," said Kirsty in alarm. The Ice Lord turned to glare at the goblin who was cartwheeling around the table, and Tiana gasped. "My candy key is around his neck," she said. "We have to get it." The striped key was dangling from a bright red ribbon. "We will get it," said Rachel, "but we can't just fly out there in front of everyone." "Could we use the magic of the land of sweets?" said Rachel. "Clara said that the candy floss would shape itself into whatever we need." Tiana's eyes sparkled. "That's an awesome idea," she said, pressing her wand against a little mound of candy floss. "Land of sweets, we need your aid. A tunnel through this candy glade. To Jack Frost's chair, please let us creep, where not a goblin eye can peep." And at once the candy floss opened up a fairy-sized gap. Tiana hurried inside, followed by Rachel and Kirsty, and they fluttered along a tunnel lit by a faint pink glow. Their wing tips brushed against the fluffy walls. The tunnel not long as the fairies came out behind Jack Frost's chair. The Ice Lord was sitting in his vast chair again. "It's lucky that Jack Frost gave himself the biggest, most important-looking chair of all," said Kirsty. "It hides us from the goblins." And just then Jack Frost started yelling again. "Will you rabble stop gobbling sweets for 5 minutes?" he demanded. "I'm sorry I ever brought you along. As long as we have to be stuck here, I don't want to listen to a crowd of munching, slurping goblins." "Goodness, he sounds grumpier than ever," Rachel whispered. "Let's reach around the chair. One side each," Kirsty suggested. "Maybe together we can lift the ribbon from his neck before he notices." And they peeped around the chair and saw that all the goblins had their heads down, busily cramming more sweet treats into their mouths. Slowly, carefully, they stretched their hands towards the ribbon around Jack Frost's neck. "Gotcha!" Each girl felt one of Jack Frost's cold hands wrapped around her wrist. They were pulled around to the front of the chair, and the Ice Lord glared at them, still holding them tight. "I heard your silly little wings flapping," he snapped. "You'll be sorry for trespassing on my land." "It isn't your land," said Rachel, trying to sound braver than she felt. "The land of sweets belongs to the fairies, and we are here to take it back." Tiana zoomed around the chair to stand beside her friends. "Give it back! Give the key back you stole from me," she said. Jack Frost leaned forward until his nose was almost touching Tiana's nose. "You're my prisoners," he hissed. "You give me orders. I know how this place works." He let go of Rachel and Kirsty and pointed a bony finger at the candy floss underfoot. To deal with these unwelcome guests, make a cage for fairy pests. Put them under lock and key and never ever set them free. At once, the candy floss around the fairies rose up in bars and they found themselves inside a huge bird cage. They were prisoners. Return of the Candy Key. Kirsty folded her arms and glared at Jack Frost. You have trapped us before and we have escaped before, she said. We will escape again. But you cannot fly away or make the Land of Sweets take you back to the ice castle. Jack Frost stuck his fingers in his ears. Blah, 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 he said rudely. I'm not listening. You will have all the sweets in the world, but you are the one who is really trapped. And while you're stuck here, the goblins are destroying your castle. Jack Frost took his fingers out of his ears and sat up straight. What do you mean? He growled. And we saw them blasting holes in your walls with the wand, said Tiana. Jack Frost's beard quivered in fury. Tiana is the only person who can control the Land of Sweets, Rachel added. You just have to give her the key. Never, Jack Frost shouted. Don't you want to go home? Tiana asked. And Jack Frost turned away and slumped sulkily in his chair. It's a shame you have to lose your castle, Rachel went on. I wonder what it will be like to live on the Land of Sweets forever, with the goblins. Jack Frost glanced up at her in dismay, but he said nothing. The sound of goblins chomping on sweets filled the air. They are very noisy eaters, aren't they? Said Kirsty after a while. Jack Frost thumped the table with his fist and stood up. You're irritating little beetles, he grumbled. Fine. Come out of the cage and have a silky key. Just take me home. The door of the cage opened and the fairies hurried out. Jack Frost took the ribbon from around his neck and held out the key. Tiana took it and Jack Frost scowled. Next time I'll bring my wand so I can get home again, he said. Then the Land of Sweets will be mine. And he scowled and let go of the key. Tiana placed the ribbon around her neck. Now you will see how the Land of Sweets should look, she said. And with a wave of her wand, the sharing table was clean and tidy. The plates were full of the toys, and the toys were mended. At the same time, the candy floss cloud zoomed away from Paradise Island. Soon it was hovering over the ice castle. Tiana tapped her wand on the cloud under Jack Frost's feet, and a trap door opened. You're home, said Tiana, and Jack Frost peered down through the trap door and let out a bellow of rage. You menaces, he shouted. You messy-haired brain chumps. You'll be sorry for this. Where's my wand? And he jumped down to the castle, closely followed by a sticky sweet-covered goblins. Tiana closed the trap door and smiled at Rachel and Kirsty. Jack Frost has a lot of tidying up to do, she said. I feel a bit sorry for him. Maybe I'll even surprise him with the key one day. That would be a lovely thing to do, said Rachel, hugging the little fairy. Thank you both for everything, said Tiana. Without you, the Land of Sweets would still be drifting over the sea. We're so happy to have been able to visit this amazing place, said Kirsty. It's time for me to send you back to your disco now, said Tiana. But maybe you could come and spend a day on the Land of Sweets with me and the other fairies soon. We'd love that, said Rachel. And Tiana gave her wand a little flick, and a puff of pink candy floss lifted the girls into the air and spun them around faster and faster like a magical fairy-ground ride. And in the blink of an eye, they found themselves back at the school disco. They were whirling around to their favorite angel song, Key to My Heart. The dance floor was full, and a few children were queuing up politely at the sweets table. A teacher was smiling as they handed out bags of sweets. Everything's back to normal, said Rachel in a relieved voice. Wow, that must be the yummiest adventure we've ever had. I'm excited about visiting the land of sweets again one day, said Kirsty. Me too, said Rachel, spinning her best friend faster and faster. But right now, I'm just happy to be here, sharing the sweets and the disco. The end. Well, that was a great book. I love that story. I hope you did too. Until we read together again next time, boys and girls. Bye-bye.